My name is Michael Malone. The name of our firm is Malone Maxwell Dennehy Architects, and I'm the founding principal. And we started the firm in 1992, so we're about 28 years into our adventure as being architects. So, with this house, the site was really the biggest determinant of the inspiration for anything we did design-wise. It's unusual in Dallas to have a house on a site with this much topography. There's 16 feet of fall from the street down to the creek, which meant that the house has to engage and deal with the slope. And then of course there's the creek itself, which is an amazing feature of this lot. Very, very few waterfront pieces of property in Dallas proper. And then finally the trees. We counted, I think there's about 50 mature trees on the lot. And we tried to work those into the design and not lose any of them. So that was part of our strategy. The initial idea was that from the very beginning when we looked at it, we knew that this particular site is the confluence of the neighborhood of all the surface drainage. So basically all the water that runs into the creek for this part of the neighborhood runs through this site. So we knew from the beginning we needed to maintain that and find a way to address it. If you think about it metaphorically, with the water running down the site, that gave us this idea to sort of step the house down and have it appear to kind of cascade down to the creek. And that was a really important part of the design, figuring out how to do that gracefully and at the same time make it literal, that you felt the idea of water flowing down the site. We manifested that in part in the design with the curve of the ceiling. So it's very much meant to evoke the idea of gently flowing water rolling over this topography down to the creek. It was a nice expression of that idea. The first sketch I made, for the first design sketch I made, had this diagram of this curving ceiling going down towards the water. And the first drawing I made after we were retained by Jane and Andrea was that very idea. Light was very, very important in the design concept for this house. One of the great things about having a heavily wooded lot is you don't have to worry so much about direct sunlight, glare, and heat gain that you do on a house built on a more typical flat sort of suburban lot. So we had the blessing of natural shade on all four sides of the property. In fact, the shade created this idea of filtered light coming into the house, which was part of the inspiration for the slats that cover the outside and cover a lot of the windows. The feeling that it was the trees and the verticality of those trees expressed, and that all the light here filtered through leaves and trees. It was a really important part of the concept. Every single room in the house has at least 2, sometimes 3 window exposures. So there's never a place where you only get natural light from one place, which I think is really important as you move through a house during the day, to be able to sense the time of day from the place that you are. Once it supports the rhythms of your life and how you move through that day. We salvaged and reused the foundation of the house, which of course meant we weren't disturbing the soils, we weren't disturbing the drainage patterns. We were able to keep all of the existing trees and vegetation pretty much in place. Secondarily, the house that had been here before was covered in Austin stone, sort of a random pattern of limestone. We salvaged all that limestone and used it for all the retaining walls that we built around the house. It runs around the decks and the pool edge, and then some of the other retaining walls at different places. All of those things. And then the further things in the construction of the house itself, it's intensely insulated, has a very, very, very high level of insulation. The roofing materials are Galvalume, which reflect about 90% of the UV and heat gain possible. The entire house is built of materials that are largely locally sourced, random brick that was whitewashed, and then the cedar slats on the outside. And then finally, all the interior millwork is maple, which is a sustainable hardwood. It's not a dark wood, which we picked both for its light color, which works well with the theme of the house, and also because it's a wood that's enduring and can be regrown easily and is available from sources that don't require going into rainforests or other difficult environments to harvest it. So in doing this house, you can't do a house like this if you're just trying to meet functional requirements for your clients. In those kinds of relationships, clients are customers and you're sort of meeting their needs. In this house, we really had patrons. Jane and Andrea were engaged in not only meeting their own needs, but in an artistic expression, and they allowed us to explore things beyond just the simple things that would have made the house nice. You can't do a project like this unless you have the room and the time and the support to look at different ideas and come up with them and then be able to execute them and work through them with the contractor and make them work. So everything here, this is a highly detailed house. If you walk around and look at it, almost everything shows a touch of some level of design that Danielle or I were able to express and do. And in creating those kinds of things, you have to have not just material resources, but the intellectual resources of the people you're engaged with who want to do something and realize the potential and see how much better everything would be if they allowed you to just go a little bit further with it. So we are eternally grateful for that opportunity.
Hi, I'm Jane Sumner. I am in the consumer product goods world, work for a large corporation based in California and run one of their business units. Been here in this beautiful home for right about 2 years.
I'm Andrea Bohannon. I am the Chief Executive Officer for a Dallas-based healthcare company. And as Shay mentioned, we've been here for 2 years and couldn't get here fast enough.
Well, for us, it was really about the land, the lot, and the trees, and the beauty of the location where we have the beautiful creek and waterfall. And we knew we wanted a special home, and we just found the right architect that helped us figure out exactly what that was gonna be. It started with really the property.
Yeah, it did. And you know, there's actually a really cool mid-century modern home here originally that we liked a lot. But when we met with Michael and Danielle, they had so many other ideas that we couldn't say no to. So we had planned to definitely do some work to the home and remodel it and actually increase the square footage. But we ended up probably going more broader and more grand than we had originally planned. But we're super glad we did.
I think we were pretty involved in the design process because Michael and Danielle were great about walking us through every element and every stage, and we had a lot of questions, and as I look back, some of them were really dumb questions, but they were very kind and put up with those dumb questions. One of my favorite parts about the design process was when they created the model of the home, the wooden model that they still have in their office today, and that was just really impressive. They even had a little stick for every single tree on the lot as part of this model. So
I think that model ended up on a TV show.
It
So it was really cool. But yeah, that was super helpful. You would forget things, and we would call them up. Hey, what? Now wait a minute. What kind of floors are we going to have? So while we were very involved in the layout, really I'd say more particularly, we made some changes with some of the layout or some of the things that we wanted. We added the fireplace to the master, or we decided to go ahead and redo the deck out back. But in terms of the details of the interior design, we really relied on their recommendations. And I would say that in most every instance we went with what they recommended. So while we were very involved, it was a lot of their recommendations.
There's so many beautiful spots in this house. It's really hard to call out one. I mean, we love sitting under the stair tower on Sunday mornings and reading the newspaper, looking out over the creek. We love the master bath because it's just such a peaceful place in the morning to be getting ready, and the views that you even have from the master bath are pretty amazing.
And in the dining room. Every part of the house has a different view, and it's always, outdoor view. And even upstairs, one of the bedrooms upstairs overlooks the waterfall, and There's operable windows, so you can clearly most times throughout the year distinctively hear the waterfall from upstairs. So there's just so many, sitting in the Eames chair in the lower living area is super comfortable as well. So there's so many fantastic areas, even out front, in front of the garage that we have. And during these COVID times, we have so many folks that walk through the neighborhood, and so we really get an opportunity to really visit with our neighbors.
We sit in the driveway. It's like our front porch. So we take our chairs out and sit in the driveway with the dog, and that's our front porch, and everybody walks by, and we get to see our neighbors during these crazy times. So every piece of the house is pretty remarkable.
So yeah, it just depends on what kind of mood you're in. I mean, if you're social mood, out front's a fun place to be. If you really just want to spend some time relaxing around the pool, the design of the pool is fantastic. You can, again, it overlooks the waterfall. We have a lot of privacy with the trees that we have. There's a lower landing area that you can actually fish off of, just for catch and release. So there's this, and then outside the terrace outside of the bedroom, the master bedroom is lovely as well. And our neighbors across the creek have horses, so there's about 4 or 5 horses across the creek that you can see from that upstairs area. So
Don't always feel like you're in the big city
Nope.
when you're back there. It's kind of nice.